Howdy, y'all. Welcome back. Leah here. I'm outside today, if you can't tell. It's really nice out, and then it's supposed to rain for a couple days, so I figured I'd come outside for my yap sesh and let the sun kiss my little skinsies, I've been inside way too much. And, just generally speaking, I don't spend enough time outside appreciating nature. This was the first spring that I've really noticed flowers in my yard. And I'm not talking about these, I'm talking about in the grass. Little purple, they're called blue violets, but they're purple. Okay, they're purple. Those aren't blue. Yeah, I've noticed just way more little flowers in my yard. And maybe it's just the fact that I don't normally, come outside very often in the springtime. Genuinely, I don't come outside very often. That's something that I really wanted to change about myself. There was a bee. I don't like bugs. I do like bugs. I appreciate bugs, just not when they're in my personal bubble. But I have to remind myself that all things were made with the same amount of intention and purpose. So, not my place to be killing bugs. But when they're in my personal bubble, I have a constitutional right. But this was the first time I noticed that I had purple flowers in my yard. And I have some little tiny blue ones over there. There's just a whole bunch of them. And I would say I would attribute that partly to myself for wanting to be outside and see more and do more. But also, my boyfriend's big on outdoors and being outside. And he likes to tell me what plants are what. And really it's just made me a big fat bumblebee. It's just made me pay attention a lot more to nature as a whole, which I really enjoy. I'm surprised the birds are being quite quiet. I do say so myself. And this past fall was the first time I really watched all the leaves fall off of a single tree. I watched it go from green to bare. And I noticed the day that I came, I went to school every day. It was right outside of my little area that I would pass by. And I noticed the day that I came and it had 0 leaves left. And I just thought, that's the first time I've ever watched a tree lose its leaves intentionally. I've intentionally watched it. And I've been intentionally watching the yard and the grass and going on walks, seeing things, appreciating nature just as a whole. And I think it's a very beautiful thing. And I think even if you're not a religious person or you don't have any spiritual ties to anything, going outside and experiencing nature is one of the very cool things of life. Probably one of the coolest things you can do, It's other living things that aren't talking shit. Other living things that don't have opinions. And who am I to say? Maybe a tree does have an opinion, okay? But as far as we know, tree is just existing. That's why I really love nature. Love it. I had a really bad pimple on my face and I was I don't really want to go out into the world. People are just going to be and really, truly, does anyone actually give a fuck? And even if they did, so what? They look at me and they're like, that's a big pimple. And then they keep going and we go about our days and we never speak and it's fine. So, but I felt very insecure about my acne. So I was like, you know what? You know who doesn't give a fuck? The trees. The trees don't give a damn. And then I went on a nature walk and I was like, see, the trees don't give a fuck. And then I got this app. It's called the Seek app or iNaturalist. It's called both, depending on what type of phone you got. But good app, great app, free app where you can scan and take pictures of nature things and it'll tell you what those nature things are. Yeah, and I did that on the trail. Passed an old man, said hi to an old man, and we were like, it's muddy, ain't it? It's nice out, but man, it's muddy. And then we went about our day, and it was fine. And I don't think a wrinkly old man gave a shit about my acne. He's probably like, wow, I remember those days. I don't know. I'm sure older people might still get acne. I don't really know how that works. Everyone has pores, but, that don't even matter. That's not even the point. The point is nature's really awesome, and you should get out and be in it. It's good for the soul. And if you're not a believer in much, still great for the soul to be around living things that aren't judging you or giving a fuck. You're not perceiving their opinions of you either. They're just beautiful things to be around. And if you are spiritual or religious or whatnot, I think it brings you even closer to whatever that is for you. I'd like to call it God sometimes. I think people know what you're talking about when you talk about God, right? When I say God, you guys are getting the point. When I say the universe, some people are like, oh, well, that's some woo-woo shit. But I think all religions are about the same shit. They're just different. It's like, when you play the game telephone and the first person says a sentence and it goes through the ears of a bunch of people until it gets back to them and it sounds nothing like it once did, but you can tell that it came from the same source. That's religion. That's how it all goes. That's how it all works. And, I think if your religion, if your way of being tears down other people's way of being, it's wrong. God would never intentionally want that. He would never want that. Ain't it God's job to judge? So stop fucking judging. You're not God. I do think every human's built with a little bit of God, right? A little bit of, I'd like to call it divinity. I don't really think it's a chunk of God or anything, but I think if we all come from the same source of energy, it's the Big Bang, if everything started with that, if that's where God comes from, I don't know. I'm spitballing, okay? But if we all come from the same big glob of energy, if we all are made up of cells and things are made up of atoms, and then those atoms are made up of protons and neutrons and electrons, and you go down and down and down until now we're talking frequency and wavelengths, and you can't see past that. If we're all made up of that, if everything is a little bit of that, I would imagine we all are connected and all come from the same sort of thing. And so that little chunk in you, I feel a bug touching me. Gross. I don't like bugs very much. I do, just not in my bubble. But what I'm getting at is that whether you believe in God or not, or divinity or not, that was a big fat bumblebee. It's been coming around. I hope it finds what it's looking for. Man, I keep getting off track. If we're all made up of a little bit of God, of a little bit of divine energy, of science, we're all made from science. Even things that aren't living are made from science. They're chemical compounds that make X, Y, and you get plastic because you're mixing chemicals at a certain heat. The fact that all of that exists, that everything gets to exist, is enough to be whoa, we should take care. We should appreciate it. We should enjoy it. We should take care of it. That includes yourself. You have to take care of yourself. That's the point, is to be appreciative and like it. You just have to find a way to like it, because it's likable. The world is kind of just a mess, really, truly. I think that when people want power and money, that it really just starts tearing things away. But now is when bad things happen is one of the best times to just be unique and to find happy things, because people who want you to feel bad, it pisses them off when you're feeling good. People who want you to submit to them, it pisses them off when you don't. Pisses them off when you're actually, nah, bruh. And I think there's enough wonderful people in this world to kind of get the gist of it. I think it's funny because, our algorithms, what I see on the internet is different from what you see on the internet, which isn't fair in a lot of ways. But I do think that it brings a lot of people who think a lot like me to my attention. I don't necessarily watch every person's videos or their whole video, but I see what people are even just titling their things, And to me, that proves to me that there are plenty of humans who have the right mindset about life and the right goals, and what they want is what I want. And it gives me hope. It gives me a lot of hope that there's enough good people to balance out the shittiness that is our world in a lot of ways. And I think by the time that Gen Z is grandparent age, that our generations below us will have a lot more figured out. Because we're why is racism still happening? Why is homophobia, why is that a thing that's happening? Why are we taking women's rights? Why is that happening? And, people bring religion into it a lot, and I think, sure. But laws aren't religion. Morals can be tied into religions. Sorry, the AC unit kicked on. At least I know the house is going to be cold when I get back into it. Although, it's like 80 degrees today, but the wind is keeping it to where it don't feel like 80 degrees. This is the only part of my body that's like, damn, it's 80 degrees. Where was I going with this? I had a point somewhere. Politics sucks. The world sucks. But I have hope that there's enough good people and enough, in time, that society will figure itself out. It usually does. Hey, and let's be clear. It has in a lot of ways, right? Like 100 years ago, black people didn't have like safety in life. It was like fucked and horrible and unfair and unethical, and in a lot of ways still is. But like, the civil rights movement was in like the 60s. That was less than 100 years ago. So I think there's a lot of room for change. That's what I mean by that. I don't mean to like pick and poke at things that suck, but like we're in a time period where a lot of people are focusing on what sucks, and I understand that. I do too sometimes. But it is not healthy to sit and be like, I hate the way the world is. This is a great opportunity to remind yourself of what you love about the world. And and I think in a lot of ways we have created these fears of being ourselves, of being. We create a lot of fears because we're pushed through society to judge others, to have opinions that are judgmental. And I'm not sitting here saying I've never judged someone. I most definitely have. It's not something that I like to do, and I like to, sometimes your first thought is the thing that you were taught. And so then your second thought ought to be what you're relearning, what you're teaching yourselves. So sometimes I'm judging someone's outfit, and I'm like, what the fuck is she wearing? And I'm like, you know what? It don't fucking matter. That I'm not going to have to see that person again. I hope that she feels confident. I hope that outfit makes them feel great. And that's how I leave it, because why does it matter? And I think a lot of times, for me at least personally, the part of me that doesn't like to be hurt, the part of me that's protecting myself from the outside world, pushes this narrative that like at some point in the future, if I am active on the internet, if I become a famous artist, that someone that knew me in times I wasn't proud, which by golly would have to be when I was a teenager, because I'm only 23. I've not had very many years to be a shitty person. So like, I hope going forward I make choices that align with my values a lot more. But I think I've put a lot of work into myself, and I forgive myself, and that doesn't mean other people have to, but I guess like how do I want to phrase this? It's a thought. It's like a concept. It's a concept of a plan, okay? Me personally, when I get ready in the day, I think about, I don't always look at myself through my own eyes like, wow, I look better than I did yesterday. Oh wow, my hair looks really cool today. There is a bee and it's buzzing around. Sorry, I'm not a bee person. I'm not a bugs that can hurt you type of gal. Those type of bugs I prefer to stay away from. Although I know bees typically don't care. And they're not wasps. I'm looking at them. That's not a wasp. They are bees, and bees are not bad. Bees are very good. Bees are nice creatures that can only sting you one time and then they die, and so they try not to sting people. Pro tip, bees don't try to sting you. Wasps, however, evil motherfuckers. Hornets, evil motherfuckers. Bees, love them. Where was I? Oh, essentially, when I get ready, I perceive myself in a certain way, and then the way I'm perceiving myself, the things that I'm like, the systems that I'm going through to judge if I look okay, sometimes aren't even my own. They are what I assume other people would be thinking if they saw me. Oh, why would I do that to myself? Ain't it their job to be feeling how they feel and not my job to be thinking about how they might feel? That's a stranger. It's hurting me to be thinking about it. I do that in a lot of ways, and I realize it, and it makes me quite sad that that's even like the way I am. But I think a big block that keeps me from wanting to pursue fame's not the right word, but like the confidence to just post online, to I don't know. There's always this, I mean, I think everyone has it to a certain degree. Like, you feel like you have to be perfect on social media, which is why we all know that social media is fake, because everyone feels the need to be perfect on social media. And I'm not perfect. In many ways, I am not perfect. I'm weird. I'm strange. I've learned a lot. Shit was tough. Shit's better now. You know, it's just like, I like to continually be in a state of evolution. I like to believe that I can do that and be that and achieve that. And so something that I think everyone could benefit from, that I know I can, is letting go of the non-existent perception of other people. That's like, it's like I'm always fighting a future monster that doesn't exist. I'm preparing for a battle that isn't happening. And it's like, it would be one thing, right, if it was happening now, but I think part of me is stuck in my high school years, where I went to a really small school in a really small town, so it was like, you couldn't exist without everyone knowing everything you did, and whatever, but like, that puts this sort of pressure on you to be a certain way and to act a certain way and to hold yourself to other people's expectations, because everybody is judging you. They're watching you and they're judging. And, you know, I think it's funny because we discredit a lot of the teenage experience by being like, in a couple years, you'll realize it doesn't matter. And it's like, yeah. In a couple years, you'll realize after high school, wow, why did I give a fuck what that bitch thought? Why did I care? Like, really, truly, why did I care? But when you're 16 and you're fighting with some girl because your boyfriend's cheating on you, it's like those, and that's, if your boyfriend's cheating on you, it's a problem with him, not with her. Unless you're friends. Also had that happen before. Crazy. You know, it's like, those are real feelings. Those are real experiences that you're really having. And they feel so deep because you've not had many experiences. This is your first set of them. And adults tend to be like, you'll get over it. And it's like, sure, I will. But right now it hurts. And that's like a common thing, I guess, as you go through life, is like, you're like, man, this sucks. And everyone's like, it'll be okay. Yeah, it will. In the future, it will be okay. But I'm allowed to be upset that it sucks right now. That being said, I think part of me holds on to those really hard parts and thinks that every hard thing I face is going to be exactly like that. But it never can be, because I have years of experience since those bad things happened to better deal with the future of them happening. Even if the same exact thing happened again, I would be better equipped to deal with it, because I've learned a lot. I've worked on myself. I've grown a lot. I do things very differently than I would have done them years prior. So me preparing to fight this monster that doesn't really exist, could, but doesn't exist, basing it off of the monster that I perceived when I was younger, it's just kind of insane that I would limit myself in that way. That's silly. That's goofy. I shouldn't do that. I don't want to do that. That sucks. And it's no fun. That's not fun at all. And yeah, it definitely has limited me in a lot of ways, because I'm thinking about the perception of others way more than I need to, and more than I think about my own perception. Especially when it comes to, like, I don't know, sometimes I don't want to be too much. Sometimes I don't want to be too loud. I'm an artist. I went to art school. You don't have to go to art school to be an artist, but I did. So, I'm an artist, and so I was around a bunch of art students. And art students, I don't know if y'all know this, but art students dress awesome. most of the time. Some of them wear some weird shit, you know, but there's a lot of just like fashion expression going on. And so the way I started dressing was a lot more exciting, especially because I got to wear beanies. I don't know about y'all, but my high school was like no hats. And then I got into college and I was like, why the fuck can I wear a hat? You know why I was late how many times? Because I was doing my hair and all I needed was a fucking hat. I could have been there on time, babe. I needed a hat. And what's funny is because I could wear hats for once, I wore them so much that one time I showed up without a hat and my teacher, I sat in the front row. She knew me. I promise you. She knew me. She didn't recognize me because I didn't have a beanie on. And I was like, maybe I gotta stop wearing beanies because I don't want my personality trait to be a beanie. But it was for like a year of my life there because I couldn't wear them, you know, for so long that I needed them. Anywho, off topic. Other people's perceptions. Thank you, AC, for keeping the house cool and for now being quiet. Where was I going? Giving a shit what other people think sucks. Don't do it. But to a certain degree, you should, right? Like, if you're hurting someone's feelings and you care about this person, you should care that you're hurting their feelings. But you should not care if someone likes your outfit or not. What the fuck does it matter what you wear? As long as your bits ain't hanging out and, as long as your bits ain't hanging out, I don't give a fuck what you're wearing. And even then, like, you know, there's this, like, discrepancy against, like, women's boobs because men have nipples. And you could show all the boob you want. You just cannot show your nipple. If you're a woman, they don't want to see your nips. Which is crazy. Because, like, actually they do. You know, the thing that they hate about women is that women's body parts are used for reproduction. They don't hate that women have boobs. They hate the part of the boob that feeds the baby. They don't hate that you have a vagina. They love your vagina. They just hate that babies come out of it. Okay? That's why women's body parts get over... It's not even sexualized. I mean, maybe it is, but, like, that's the reason. It's because they... Okay, Bumblebee, please don't. Sorry, the fear that a bzzz in my ear makes really just does something to me. And I don't want to whack bees. I don't want to kill bees. I like them. I want them to pollinate the flowers in my yard. I don't really know how we got onto women's body parts per se, but yeah, honestly, because we live in a society where I don't want to see, I'd prefer if people weren't naked. Wear whatever. I just don't really want to see your bits. Express yourself. Have fun. Wear the jewelry. You know, do the thing. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. Other people's perceptions keep you limited in so many ways. And the hard part is realizing and then differentiating and then getting rid of your own voice pretending to be someone else. Because it is like that for me. And it's my voice, it's my brain, it's my thoughts. But they're not my thoughts because of me. They're my thoughts because of someone else. Because personally, I enjoy recording videos like this. I want to post videos like this. But the part of me that is scared that other people are going to judge me and make it a problem is the part of me that doesn't let me do it, which is silly. Because they're not, if they gave a fuck, maybe they'd, I have a feeling they'd already be giving a fuck right now. And also, if they only give a fuck later, it's probably out of jealousy. Most people's judgment is jealousy because they are insecure about their own inadequacy in that field, in that way. People are like, why the fuck is she wearing that? They just don't feel confident in what they're wearing. They don't know how to put together a good outfit. They don't ever like what they're wearing. They probably don't like the way things touch their body, and they don't like how it looks on them. That's a them problem, not a you problem. Same when it comes to, I don't know, there's just like a lot of things like that, right? People only judge because of their own insecurity and inaccuracy. Inaccuracy? It's not the word. I said the word a couple minutes ago. Can't say it now. Sorry. Now I just have inaccuracy in my brain, and that's what we're working with. And it's going to bother me that I can't. Whatever. You get what I'm trying to say. So remember that. And even your own judgment comes from that place. Your own judgment comes from your comes from your own lack of whatever it is. Sometimes, especially when it comes to like my physical appearance, I think that's something that I judge, and I think, it comes from a place of insecurity. I don't even really judge other people all that much. I judge myself. Not that I never judge other people. I'm not going to sit here and say that I don't judge. I do. And I also think judging can be helpful. Innately, it is something that we do to keep ourselves safe. It is like you're judging the situation. You're judging if it's a safe place. You walk into someone's home, you're not judging it to be a bitch. You're judging it like, is it safe? Is it clean? Do I want to continue to walk inside? Etc., etc., So I don't think judging is all bad. I think why you're doing it matters, and knowing why you're doing it matters. Definitely the why. The why matters way more than the what in this scenario. And the how. Because if you're going to do it internally, if you're going to judge other people, let it be internally. You don't have to tell them you don't like something they're wearing. You don't have to judge them. You don't have to be like, attacking their character. You don't have to. It's why I just think it's so funny when people like hate gay people so much, because it's like, for someone who hates gay people, you're giving it a lot of attention. For someone who hates it so much, you're consuming a lot of content and commenting on it and having a lot of opinions about it. Maybe you don't hate it. Maybe you're insecure. Maybe you're just insecure in your own sexuality. Maybe it bothers you because you don't like your own relationship and you're jealous that someone else can find it outside of the norms, as But this is a reminder. Sorry to the microphone, because the microphone will be the speaker and the speaker will be what's playing in your ear. I'm sorry. This is a reminder to myself and to you that other people's opinions literally don't matter. And this is a time in your life where everything feels very tough and hard, and so why would you add on to it? You deserve better than that. You deserve to feel at peace. You deserve to feel confident. Those are all things that you deserve to feel. Everybody deserves to feel that way. And it doesn't matter if they're a good person or a bad person. I don't think there necessarily are good and bad people. I think they're just are people. And then there's things that turn out to be good and turn out to be bad. But like, you deserve good things. Everyone does. The goal should be to make your life enjoyable, because you're the only person that can. You are the only person that gets to live in your body and experience your world from your eyes. You're the only person that feels what your body's feeling, that is like, processing the thoughts you're having. So it's up to you. You have to be the one to deal with it, because other people literally can't. And that sucks, because it's hard and no one really teaches you how, because everyone's kind of stuck in their own process of doing so. Life is just a bunch of rewiring, and a lot of times people think it's hard work, so they don't do it, and then because they never do it, they have to continually experience it, and then their world doesn't feel so great because they're continually experiencing something that they don't like. And so hey birdie, wherever you are, love your song. Yes, queen, yes. This is I guess the bird's telling me to shut the fuck up. I'm gonna end this video real soon here. But this is your sign to be bold, to be brave, to post whatever you want to post, to remember not to hurt people, including yourself, and to really, really, really think about where that critique in your head is coming from. Who is judging you? Because is it really you? And do you really want to keep doing that? If not, you're gonna have to change it. And there's not a one size fits all for how to fix that problem. That's a continual everyday thing for the rest of your life, unfortunately. But the beautiful thing is you get to see yourself grow, and just like the plants, it's really cool when you finally start paying attention. When you finally pay attention to when all your leaves are falling off, when you finally pay attention to when your flowers are coming in, It's a very beautiful world, and you deserve to live in a very beautiful world. Okay, that's all. Goodbye. And I hope you're having a great week.